everyone, welcome to another Battle Tanks League commentary video with me, Eric. This game has been going for about 50 seconds now, but I just started the recording now. Everybody had paused the game for a couple of minutes because two players on the Dark Force were not present at the start of the fight, but I think everybody is here now. Everybody has picked a tank, and we can get into it. Looks like on the top here we already have an attempted yank, Fenix, who is already level 2, trying to use a triple rocket on Marquez. I wonder which of these two is actually going to stay on the top. Looks like it will be Fenix. So Fenix is in a helicopter with a light, actually maybe it's enemy that's going to be on the top. This Dark Force is acting a little bit confused right now. Diabolicue gets missed by Huifui's shockwave, and then DarkLighter barely survives taking an energy or bombard rockets from No One. I'm just gonna call him No One. Anyways, it looks like they're finally sorting out the positions on this Dark Force, so we're going to have Enemy on the top. He was one of the AFK players. He randomed a Medivac, and he bought a Darkness Spheres, and I think he also bought a Tech Mech, which you can do as a Medivac. He's going up against Marquez, who is in a helicopter and a fireball cannon. You can see that Marquez already has an entire level advantage over Enemy. That's because he's been here farming for longer. Enemy is a bit late to the party, and so he is going to be quite disadvantaged versus Marquez, because Marquez does have that level advantage. He has this position advantage where he's taken the offensive strategic location, and he has, I already mentioned he has more DPS, yes. And so the fact that he's taken this offensive strategic location and is pushing his creep waves into enemy's Dark Force tower, this doesn't bode well for Enemy, and Enemy is probably going to have to either get some very good trades or maybe wait until he can survive to the 5-minute mark and get more DPS than does Marquez. Meanwhile, on the bottom, we have Hellcat, who went multi-bow with the Demolisher. He is up against Valkyriies, who is in an anti-grav. Multi-bow is something you can do on a Demolisher or a Raider, but usually it's most commonly done if you are playing against something like a Scout or a light tank, something that has an overwhelming advantage in DPS. I don't think you quite need to go the multi-bow route against an anti-grav, especially since once you start with a basic magic on the Demolisher and upgrade the basic magic, you and the anti-grav are going to have equal DPS for 3 to 4 minutes anyway. So we'll see how that multi-bow treats Hellcat. He can play pretty defensively using mines, and he does have a slight level advantage over Valkyriies already, like a 0.2 of a level. Looks like Marquez got a kill on the top on Enemy, so that's going to exacerbate his gold and experience lead. And let's get into what's going on in the middle. We have 3 air tanks on the south team, so I wonder if anybody on the Dark Force, they have 3 air tanks. So I wonder if anybody on the Light Force will go Storm Tank, but for the time being we have DarkLighter and a Medivac with a basic magic, and we have Diabolicue in a helicopter with a light cannon, and Fenix in a helicopter with a light plasma gun. So all 3 of these tanks are very aggressive. They have high DPS. 2 of them have stunning abilities, and then the Medivac can heal its allies and also deal area damage to enemy tanks with the Super Thrust. Right now we see the Super Thrust and both triple rockets go off on GoblinKing, and then no one is able to get the return kill on Fenix with the triple rocket. Fenix did take a lot of damage trying to deal damage to GoblinKing in that fight. So it looks like we have no one in a light tank with a bombard rockets upgrade, and I wonder if he has a Tech Mech yet. At the 5-minute mark he's probably not going to get a hull. He'll likely get a second bombard rockets, and then we have Huifui, who is in a Demolisher with a basic magic, and as we hit the 5-minute mark we can see that Huifui needs about 400 more gold before he can go back and buy another basic magic and a Tech Mech, and then no one needs a little bit more before buying the bombard rockets as well. GoblinKing has upgraded his fireball cannon, doesn't seem to have much gold left. Super Thrust hits all 3 of these tanks. DarkLighter is still only level 3. He was also one of the AFK players, so he had a little bit of a late start. A couple of triple rockets on GoblinKing. GoblinKing does have that hole now, so I stand corrected. He did have a lot of gold that he had earned. And it looks like Hellcat is saving up for a big weapon, probably going to be an electro cannon. I do seem to be getting a little bit of lag. Hopefully this doesn't worsen too much. But I think Hellcat needs something like 3,200, or no, he can sell that multi-bow upgrade for I think 800, something like that. And then he needs a little bit more to get the tech mech. So you need 2,750 to get the electro cannon. He has 800 towards that, but then you need to spend 500 teleport there and back and buy a tech mech. So Hellcat should be able to get his electro cannon soon. Then he can of course buy back the multi-bow. The multi-bow remains useful if you're able to get the 2 creeps at short range. Fenix takes triple rocket. GoblinKing dies before he could get the triple rocket off on DarkLighter, who is a little bit vulnerable himself. Looks like Valkyriies does get a kill on Hellcat, so Hellcat will probably take this opportunity now that he's in the base to buy the electro cannon and the tech mech. As I was saying, his multi-bow would remain useful, even in a lane fight. He can of course always sell it and rebuy it when he needs a slight gold spike to buy something like an additional weapon, a tank, or a hull. But the multi-bow is useful in that it can quickly clear out creeps and leave only Valkyriies as the target for Hellcat's tank cannon and electro cannon, which is not an electro cannon, it's actually 2 basic magics. So Hellcat didn't get quite as much gold as he perhaps wanted to, and I also don't know why he bought 2 basic magics over something like a fireball cannon, which would only occupy 1 inventory slot. Now that he has 3 inventory slots already occupied, and one of them is a multi-bow, we're going to expect Hellcat to have to sell a couple of weapons in this mid-game, and he's going to lose value for that. He's going to lose like 833 for every basic magic sold, and I think 800 if he has to sell that multi-bow. So not the best choice of weapon in my opinion from him. But hopefully he'll be able to push back on Valkyriies now. Valkyriies getting his own light cannon that he's already upgraded, so he has been farming quite a bit with that anti-grav. He will probably get a hull next. Meanwhile, it looks like on the top enemy has a second darkness spheres, and so he does have almost as much DPS as Marquez does, and you can see he nearly got the kill there. And he should be able to definitely hold his own for now. We'll see if he gets a third weapon before getting a hull. You see he hits Marquez with another super thrust. Marquez has his own hull, and he will try to maybe farm up to a second fireball cannon or an equivalently ranged weapon at the 10-minute mark. And I don't know which of these tanks might go Storm. We can see no one is saving up a lot of gold. He might try to get an energy torpedo. If he were going for a second bombard rocket, he would have already bought it by now. But he might be using his 1300 range with the bombard rockets upgrade. 2 triple rockets going off on DarkLighter from GoblinKing and no one. Excellently aimed. He might be using the fact that he has 1300 range to forego buying a hull and just try to safely deal DPS from afar. Let's see if they can kill Fenix. Fenix ran into a couple of mines, and GoblinKing is able to get the kill on him. So this Light Force getting a lot of kills in the middle, and if no one is able to save directly up to that Storm tank and get it at 10 minutes, that's going to put a lot of pressure on these Dark Force tanks. It's going to make it very hard for them to farm, and very hard for them to use their abilities to be aggressive. And so that's maybe what no one is going to save up for if he's not trying to just get an energy torpedo, which would also be an acceptable option. It'll make him especially dangerous from afar. He is vulnerable though, so he has to stay a little bit away from fights. And Hui Fui gets killed. Fenix almost dies. He takes a triple rocket, and then GoblinKing dies. And can no one get the last bombard volley on DarkLighter? He does. So 2-to-1 trade there in favor of the Dark Force. No one getting a lucky bombard volley at the very end there, and it looks like he's going to change to a helicopter, so he is not going to go Storm Tank, and he's going to get a tech mech. And he will probably get the energy torpedo. He needs about 300 more gold, so it looks like he's going to play long range rather than getting a Storm Tank. Meanwhile, GoblinKing has the hull. He's probably bought a second weapon. We'll see it in his inventory soon. Yep, it's a second fireball cannon, so being able to get that already while in the middle, he has been farming a bit more than the average tank does, in my opinion. Enemy now has a hull, so that way he doesn't die to the triple rocket volley from Marquez. Marquez needs about 100 more gold before he can buy a second fireball cannon. And then Hellcat is saving up some gold now. He still has the 2 basic magics, which he's upgraded, and then Valkyriies has an additional hull. Looks like we get 2 kills happening in the middle, and Huifui was the one who actually bought the storm tank, so he was the demolisher, and I wonder if he saved up directly with that basic magic and then sold the demolisher for about 900. I don't see any weapons of his in the shop, so he was actually the one to save up directly, and so we have very potent GoblinKing with a lot of DPS, very valuable helicopter already. We have no one who has no hull, but he has an energy torpedo, and we have Huifui, who is in a storm tank, and he doesn't have very much farm, but he does have the energy, or the leash ability, whatever it's called, and the air mines. And the last time I was on the Dark Force in such a situation where I had a storm tank and 2 allies of that storm tank with long range, I fed like mad. I was like 3 kills and 18 deaths at around the 20-minute mark. It was pretty ugly. So this Dark Force does have to be extremely careful lest they get leashed and pulled into a vulnerable position where they can take multiple triple rockets and even a couple of energy torpedo volleys. Nolan, of course, does have to be very careful. He has low hit points, so he himself can get triple rocketed. He has to make sure he doesn't step out of position. Looks like enemy gets a kill on Marquez at the top. Barely survived. That looked like a close fight. Air mines go off on DarkLighter and Diabolicue. Nobody's quite there to follow it up, and no one's volley hits Fenix instead. Fenix is the one tank they have with a hull. I guess DarkLighter does have a hull now. All 3 of them have a hull. Never mind. Fenix has his own array of weapons. He has a lot of DPS. DarkLighter doesn't have that much DPS. He is the most durable of the tanks, however. And then Diabolicue himself needs a second weapon, probably. And these tanks probably need to buy some kinetic shields as well, because these 3 Light Force tanks have a very powerful array of attacks. We can see Diabolicue finally getting his second weapon. It's a little bit late. And he's got to be careful. He's going to step into Huifui's mine and take a lot of damage. Can they get a triple rocket on him? They do, and it does finish him off. However, Huifui stepped a little bit too far forward, trying to get the Storm Tank Q off. I don't know what that ability is called. However, he is able to chase down DarkLighter and along with GoblinKing get that kill. And then let's see if no one tries to upgrade that energy torpedo even before getting a hull. He might be able to get away with it, especially with that Storm Tank around, dealing a little bit of damage to Diabolicue from afar. He does have to stay a bit away. If he gets triple rocketed, he is quite vulnerable, so maybe he will get the hull first. You can see Valkyriies jump out of the way of Hellcat. Hellcat does have some disposable maintenance, which repairs him 500 hit points, so he can use that in a pinch. Those maintenance have 2 charges and they cost 180, so it's a bit cheaper than getting a repair kit. Another kill for the Light Force in the middle. They are able to flee. No one did upgrade his energy torpedo there. You can see that does about a third of Diabolicue's health and damage in a single volley. Hellcat has been stacking up a lot of mines that Valkyries is going to run into, even if he was able to jump over them. Let's see if Valkyries is smart, he's going to run around this way. Let's see if he does. He wisely does not run through the mines. And I thought those mines were going to explode. I didn't realize that the jump actually makes you fly over them. I thought that was going to be an instant death for Valkyries, but Valkyries is able to get away with the kill, and then very wisely, knowing that there are probably several mines stacked up here, takes the long way around, and Hellcat is not able to catch up with him. Hellcat does have a Thunder Tank already at 15 minutes. And so he will probably get speed and or a teleporter soon on that and try to hop into this middle, help the middle out, or help out this top. Right now we have enemy chasing Marquez. Enemy is saving up a lot of gold himself. He already has 3,000. Actually, he just bought a weapon. Maybe he bought an electro cannon. So never mind, he's not going to get a tank soon. And then Marquez has a small amount of gold saved up, but not much. Yeah, I agree with Pelmy. I thought Valkyries was just going to straight blow up. Looks like we have GoblinKing trying to take an aggressive position with a kinetic shield. He was only 1-on-3 though, so he wasn't able to get any kills. And then Huifui has been taking a bit more of a conservative position with those air mines. You can see 3 of them stacked right up here. So if they're smart, they're not going to be super aggressive unless they can get away with it. We have no one trying to get some volleys off on these enemy tanks. He is still vulnerable, takes a triple rocket and barely survives. If this Dark Force is playing smart, they'll play a little bit conservatively and try to draw any of these air tanks into 4 air mines, which is pretty much an instant kill if they can just stay disciplined and not try to chase the farm. Let's see, 4 mines go off, and that's 2 instant kills. And let's see if they can get the kill on DarkLighter as well. DarkLighter is among too many creeps, but yeah, 2 instant kills with those air mines, and Huifui can probably get away with putting him a little bit further forward now. He's able to reset the location of those mines since all of them went off. Let's see where he puts them next. Hellcat being pretty aggressive versus Valkyries. He does have a lot of mines backed up in case Valkyries does get an advantageous position or anybody tries to gank them, and so Hellcat might get a speed soon. He does have that multi-bill back and the Electro Aura, so he can clear out creeps quite quickly. He has 777 DPS, which is a lot on a Thunder tank this quickly. Enemy pushing Marquez. He's going to get his creep wave into the tower. Enemy and Marquez are similarly leveled. Marquez is actually a little bit higher, though enemy has closed the gap a little bit since the start of the game. Remember that enemy was AFK for the first minute or so of this match, and so Marquez had like a 1.2 level lead over enemy for a while. Triple rockets go off on no one. No one does have a hole finally. Huifui is a little bit vulnerable himself. He does take enough volleys to die. DarkLighter getting the kill there, taking an energy torpedo but not quite dying. Enemy still pushing on Marquez, who has level 10, and he's going to use a triple rocket. And now Valkyries is going to jump in, use the EMP torpedoes, and they get the kill on enemy. And Hellcat is too far away to respond. Excellent gank by Valkyries there. And Huifui is once again a little bit vulnerable. He was stepping way too far into these creeps, and then he took a super thrust to die in the end. GoblinKing is able to get the kill on DarkLighter though. Hellcat hopping in just in case there's any free kills for him. There aren't any. And then Valkyries might carefully step into a few mines. Just be careful, he's taken out almost all of them. So unless these are high level mines, takes 2 more, and actually he might die. He took 1 too many mines there, but he does have a jump in him, and so he is able to escape. So he might not realize it, but he probably thinks almost all of these mines are taken out, and he can safely press Hellcat if needed. So well played by him, carefully taking them out. GoblinKing uses a kinetic shield just to make sure that these 3 darkness or Dark Force tanks don't play too aggressively against them. Fenix does take another mine. Nobody's in position to really follow it up. Do they have some triple rockets in them? All the creeps are cleared out. These tanks are a little bit vulnerable. If they can get stunned, they're going to be a little bit too far. And now Valkyries is actually pushing Hellcat. You can see Valkyrie's got a steel hull on top of that iron hull. So he's going to stick with the anti-grav for a little while, it looks like. And it's 19 minutes into the game. Let's see if anybody's saving up for a tank. Diabolicue has a little bit of gold. DarkLighter has a little bit of gold. Triple rockets go off on Diabolicue and GoblinKing from each other. Who has the kinetic shield? It looks like it's whoever I'm clicking on. Fenix. So Fenix has a kinetic shield and not quite as much gold, but probably because he has that kinetic shield. We might see a heavy tank come out at 20 minutes. If not, we'll see tanks definitely by 25 minutes from one of these players. And then meanwhile, Huifui already, of course, has a tank. He's been able to buy 1 weapon on top of it so far. And then GoblinKing has a lot of gold saved up, and he does have the kinetic shield and 2 fireball cannons, so he's definitely the most well-spec'd tank in this middle so far. And then no one doesn't have any gold saved up so far, but he can get away with it for a little bit longer since he has that long range. Then meanwhile, enemy has 2,000 gold saved up. He's pressing Marquez. He's able to use his R ability. That little Marine there stole the kill on Marquez and denied enemy a bunch of gold, unfortunately for him. That was kind of unlucky. But enemy does have 2,000 gold saved up. Valkyriies has closer to 3,000 gold saved up. And then, let's see, Marquez just bought an airship with those 2 fireball cannons. Airship is decent on the lane because it does have the healing drones, which allows it to play pretty offensively and heal itself. It's not the best tank at hopping into the middle, so let's see if enemy responds with anything. Perhaps his own storm tank. He's going to get the storm tank to counter Marquez directly. He can also be a counter to Hui, though storm tanks kind of counter each other, more or less. Hui using the mine. Let's see if he can get another 2 kills. And yeah, that's a triple kill for Hui. Well played there. He and no one teaming up, and Hui, of course, got the finishing blow on all 3 of those, so he did get the triple kill and some extra gold out of that. Very well played. And then enemy should actually win this matchup versus Marquez with that additional DPS he has. That storm tank, one of the reasons it's so good against air tanks is because its tank cannon is kind of like a grenade launcher, the weapon, where it can be switched to an air-only mode, which gives it extra range. I think it gives it 1050 range instead of the normal 900 range, and then it gets another maybe 20% DPS over the normal tank cannon. I think it's somewhere around 20%. I know the grenade launcher, for example, does 123 DPS, and it does like 153 versus air. So it gives it an additional like 20% or so DPS. And the storm tank, oh, Marquez barely surviving that air mine. And so the storm tank has the air cannon, which does extra damage versus air tanks. Another thing that makes it powerful is, especially on these, if creeps are present and Marquez is trying to hide amongst them, they will ignore the ground creeps, and the air cannon at least will fire only on Marquez. And then meanwhile, the storm tank has its Q ability. I forget what it's called. It just does damage in an area, but it does double the damage against air tanks. Enemy probably won't spec that. He'll instead spec the energy leash. Hellcat's a little bit vulnerable here in the middle. 3-1 for the light force there in that exchange. This light force middle really is dominating with that combination of long range GoblinKing's excellent spec'd tank and then Hui's storm tank, which counters all 3 of these tanks. Speaking of storm tank, the energy leash, if you use it against a ground tank or a ground unit, it will pull you. It will give you extra speed in approaching that unit, and so you can catch up to ground units pretty quickly. Not the most useful in the middle, because all that usually means is you run quickly into the midst of 3 enemy tanks. But if it's used against an air tank, it pulls that air tank towards you with a certain amount of speed. I'm not sure exactly how it's calculated. It's like a couple of kills go down on the bottom there. Attempted gank against Hellcat. Hellcat is able to get 1 kill out of it, but no one finishes him off, barely survives. And so that storm tank, it can pull enemy tanks towards the group of tanks on your side. And so it acts kind of like a stun that way, in that it can draw enemy tanks out of position, enemy air tanks that is. And then its air mine, it does the same amount of damage against both air and ground tanks, and it also slows them down. But you'll have noticed this if you've been watching. If an air tank approaches within something like 200 range of an air mine, the air mine will follow that tank and blast into it. And so it has a much larger area of damage against air tanks. We see Valkyriies here at the bottom trying to build a teleport beacon, summon his allies. He's going to be met with 3 Dark Force tanks instead of any of his teammates. Let's see if the Dark Force is able to push and kill this tower in the meantime. They almost get the kill on it. That tower is about 800 hit points left. They are able to get 1 kill out of that exchange. So Valkyriies did die. The Light Force did get 1 kill in the middle, but Valkyriies did lose a teleport beacon, which costs 400 and probably gave about 100 bounty. So that's worth a little bit more than a kill there in terms of total net worth lost. Not the best exchange there for the Light Force, but they are still winning this matchup. Fenix finally changes from an air tank into a darkness tank, And let's see if they're able to get any kills with the air mines. Diabolicue is going to take an air mine shot. He's going to barely survive. I think Huifui was hoping that he would pull it into this tower in the tech mech here. And let's see if Fenix is able to ward them off long enough for them to repair that middle tower. Darkness tank is a pretty decent tank. It's a tier 3 tank. It will scale decently into the about an hour and 5 into the game. Looks like enemy just got another kill on Marquez. He does have speed, and he has bought back his iron hull on that storm tank. They could try to swap Valkyriies against enemy, but enemy would just swap in return. And Marquez can't. Marquez isn't the best tank to switch into the middle. Airship isn't the most useful there. It's like Valkyrie's trying to hop in and out of this bottom, try to draw this Dark Force away from this command post here so that they can kill it. DarkLighter is tanked up himself with an Earth tank. And Fenix misses that Orb of Darkness on Huifui. Enemy gets another kill on Marquez. He's winning that matchup so far, definitely. And when is this Light Force going to get tanks? No one only has 4,000 gold. He does have the kinetic shield. He can save up a little bit longer. And I guess GoblinKing has already gotten a tank. He has a sky tank, which will be decent against these ground tanks here. DarkLighter's ultimate ability cannot hit any air tanks, so I actually don't know why he picked that, given that there were already 2 air tanks in the middle. Huifui takes a lightning strike from Hellcat. I wonder if they're going to be able to get the kill on Hellcat. GoblinKing finishes him off with an energy bomb. And yeah, excellent use of the kinetic shield, and they do weather it out. Somebody's tech mech is a little bit vulnerable. It's Fenix's. No one was perhaps trying to get the firebomb off on it, and had to step out of the way before he made himself too vulnerable. Pressure coming here against this top command post for the Dark Force. Valkyries and Marquez do flee. And yeah, I'm questioning that pick of the Earth Tank, because the Earth Tank only, its most powerful ability, the Earthquake, only affects ground tanks, and there are 2 air tanks here. So maybe they'll use nets and try to get the ground tanks that way. In fact, if I were Fenix or Diabolicue or DarkLighter, I would definitely be stocking my inventory with nets, since there are 3 air tanks and 2 players that are going to be air tanks for a while. And even if they were swapped out with somebody like Marquez, Marquez is himself an air tank. So we've got a lot of air tanks here, a lot of opportunity for net kills, and nets are going to be especially useful for Fenix's Darkness tank here, because it has the powerful Darkness Orb ability, which does, I think, 3750 damage at level 5, 3000 damage at level 4. It's just kind of hard to aim. The enemy needs to be immobilized for quite some time, which a net can do. And so I wonder how soon these players are going to realize that nets are something very, very worth buying in. I think it's kind of a blunder for all 3 of these tanks, or so many tanks on the Light Force, to be air tanks, even though they have been having success with them so far. Hellcat has gotten some speed and some items to increase his combat strength. Enemy's going to try to pull Marquez, and then, who is it? Diabolicue stunned the wrong person. He needed to stun Marquez there. Hellcat finally does get the stun on him, and the Conservation was too low level to finish off Marquez. I was going to say maybe he should stay in that kinetic shield. I don't know if, because Conservation makes any healing effect to not apply for its duration. And my question is, will a kinetic shield absorb the damage of Conservation? Maybe I'll have to test that out in single player. That might be the only way you can save somebody from Conservation if true. That Conservation ability can be very powerful late in the game, say in an hour. Once people start getting Infernals and Titans and you have a command post fight, having a Conservation go off on you is an automatic, I think, 14% damage that you take that you cannot heal from. And that's pretty significant when it comes to late game tanks. See if Hellcat can come in and get a stun. He's not quite fast enough, and he doesn't have a teleporter yet. Marquez has a steel hull on top of that iron hull, trying to survive enemies' powerful air mines. Valkyries has got to be a little bit careful. Hellcat can come and stun him. Valkyries phases him out first, and now he's going to use his plasma or EMP torpedoes to stun him. Hellcat is able to get the lightning strike on him. I think Hellcat could have finished him off. I don't know why he fled unless he was trying to help out the middle or the top. I think he wins that fight. Valkyries, of course, does have that jump, so maybe that's why he didn't pursue it. And now we have all ground tanks, and they can't get nets, so Hui Fui is actually not that useful anymore. And it looks like he did get netted by somebody. DarkLighter does buy nets indeed. Hui Fui still survives, but DarkLighter will be a lot useful as the Earth tank with the nets. And Hui Fui, meanwhile, will not have the advantage of his storm tank abilities against air. His mines still work, his tank cannons still work, but they are much less powerful, and his leech won't be as powerful anymore as well. No one does grab a hunter for the light force. We have a hunter on each side. Overall, I think I actually like this Dark Force's tank combination a little bit better, especially with the nets. The Light Force does have a bit more valuable of inventories. You can see GoblinKing has more DPS and the kinetic shield, and so does Hui Fui. Nets go off on Hui Fui, and are they going to be able to get the kill? They do, and no one's a little bit vulnerable as well, as is Fenix. Can they get the kill on no one? They do, so 2 kills there for the Dark Force. DarkLighter is a little bit vulnerable. He's phased out by Valkyries and then stunned by him, so DarkLighter is going to die. GoblinKing needs to be careful. And so does Valkyries. Valkyries has the jump in case he needs to get away quickly. And Darkness Orb's going to go off, try to hit Valkyries. Not quite able to reach him. And Hui Fui is going to try to be aggressive, but he is not quite powerful enough. Looks like the enemy doesn't have any mines anymore. He just spotted plasma fragments. I am not familiar with this weapon. It looks like it's kind of like the grenade launcher, but better. Normally you don't see that late in the game, but given that they have 3 air tanks on their team, that's actually a decent pick. 950 range, I wonder how much it costs. 6,000. Alright, I had no idea that weapon existed, and that's kind of a niche weapon, but this is definitely the game for it. Hui Fui takes a gravity grenade. Is he going to get netted? Both Fenix and DarkLighter use the nets on them, so that was a waste of a net, and then GoblinKing uses the kinetic shield to save Hui Fui, and then gets an excellent flame strike, as well as no one getting the gravity grenade, and so they are able to get the kill. DarkLighter barely tunnels out of the way to survive, and then dodges no one's main gun. So the Light Force, excellent response to that aggression there. A little bit unfortunate that they used 2 nets on the same player at the same time. So those nets cost 200 gold each. So not only did they lose 1 kill in that exchange, they lost 2 nets. And so that definitely favored the Light Force there. You can see enemy definitely has a DPS advantage over Marquez now, and he actually wouldn't be too bad to hop into the middle either. Let's see if he can leash Marquez and get a kill. They are both kind of equal health right now. Enemy does have most of his mana. Marquez does have to be a little bit careful pressing this advantage too far. And then enemy is going to use his ultimate ability. He's going to leash Marquez. Can he get enough abilities off? Plasma fragments going off on Marquez. Enemy is going to get this kill. No help from Fenix needed. Fenix comes in with some nets just in case. He's going to get phased out by Valkyries. Valkyries isn't going to be able to get any kills out of this, and actually he might be vulnerable himself. Sphere of Darkness already went off. And maybe they'll have to get back if this Orb of Darkness is well placed. It misses, and now Fenix is a little bit vulnerable. Valkyries jumps in, and he dies. And Fenix is able to get out of the way. So 2 kills there for the Dark Force, excellently played. And then Hellcat's being quite aggressive here on this top. Can he get the kill on the tower? 200 down. Hellcat's going to die for this, but he does get the kill on that tower. And now this Light Force does have to be cognizant of the fact that this command post can be taken. And this top command post is taking a lot of damage as well. Huifui gets netted and leashed while in the net, so he just gets pulled back. He barely survives, and enemy is going to go back. Valkyriies is going to jump in, maybe get the kill on enemy again. And let's see if Diabolicue has his gravity grenade. DarkLighter is going to tunnel his way into Valkyriies and finish him off. Where is the gravity grenade? Gravity grenade goes off, hits all 3 of these players, excellently placed. Enemy Diabolicue is vulnerable himself, able to finish off Huifui before Marquez gets the kill on him. Hellcat's taking this bottom command post meanwhile, so the Dark Force does get that, and then Marquez is going to die once again. So this Dark Force is playing very, very well right now. And then Valkyriies is able to get the jump, but I don't think he has his phase out quite yet. And then enemy is barely able to get another kill on GoblinKing. And those plasma fragments putting in a lot of work, giving him a lot of DPS. And if DarkLighter had another net, he'd be able to kill Huifui. As it is, they're able to get the kill anyway, despite DarkLighter being phased out. That was kind of a waste of the phase out by Valkyriies there. Diabolicue's got to get back before he gets flame striked and energy bombed. GoblinKing kind of paused there. I think he got hit by the gravity grenade actually. DarkLighter getting himself some bonus armor. Valkyriies is going to take a long jump and try to get the EMP torpedoes off. It's kind of redundant, and then he survives the main gun. Marquez was able to get the kill on enemy before Valkyriies' EMP torpedoes were needed, and Valkyriies doesn't have his jump anymore. He's stunned by Hellcat, and then Hellcat finishes him off. Huifui puts a defensive goblin mine up, or air mine, sorry. And they do have a good command post from which to siege. I don't know if any of these tanks are particularly good at sieging. Enemy's tank would be as a storm tank, but he's actually quite useful in these fights with 3 air tanks around. So maybe Hellcat will get troops and try to siege. He does have a teleporter, and he has a lot of DPS, so maybe a troop command is next on the list. Maybe he gets the speed pack or sells basic magic. He does have the strength pack as well to regenerate himself some hit points while on the offensive, and then the teleporter to get back when needed. Valkyriies phases him out. He's going to try to use the EMP torpedoes on him and finish him off, perhaps. He's got to be careful because Hellcat has more hit points than he's letting on, but Valkyriies has too many creeps around. And it looks like they've moved Huifui maybe into the middle for now. Hellcat is able to get the kill on Valkyriies. I missed that. I guess they kept fighting, and then Hellcat finishes off another tower, so once he can get a siege pack, he's definitely a threat to siege this base. Huifui has a lot of gold. I wonder if he's just going to change tank, maybe to a frost tank, which would probably be wise by him. They have too many air tanks in this game. The only air tank he's useful against is enemy. He's too vulnerable to nets. He's too vulnerable to plasma fragments. So pivot to frost tank would be a decent change here. He gets leashed, he gets stunned, he's going to die. He gets hit with the chain lightning, and then DarkLighter and Diabolicue getting hit with the gravity grenade and the flame strikes, so that's a 1-to-1 trade. These plasma fragments do a lot of damage to GoblinKing, and then Hellcat comes in. He does have that he doesn't have the multi-bow anymore, but he has the electro aura. Too many creeps around despite that electro aura. And then you can see Fenix using these orbs of darkness to slowly siege this command post here. Marquez is doing a good job of moving his mech out of the way. But if that orb goes off for maximum damage, it will one-shot that mech. So he does have to be disciplined about moving it back and forth. No One and Diabolicue have pretty similarly valued hunters. It looks like No One has bought a multi-bow. I was going to say maybe that was Hellcat's multi-bow, but no, it's not. One thing Diabolicue could do to get himself some extra farm is buy Hellcat's multi-bow. That actually wouldn't be bad. Huifui takes a net, and then GoblinKing takes a net. They need to pick whom to net right here, because as it is, all three of these tanks survived, and only DarkLighter died. So we had, I think, no one hit by the gravity grenade. Huifui and GoblinKing each hit by separate nets. Main gun goes off, but it's too late. They're trying to take this top command post. Valkyries and no one coming in. Valkyries had built the teleport beacon, and then Fenix is the only one there. Now they have a third tank here, and GoblinKing, Hellcat, and DarkLighter and Diabolicue are going to be here to respond. They're going to hang on to this. Diabolicue using the Acid Cloud to deal damage to no one. They shouldn't leave this command post. Oh no! And they take the command post. That was a blunder there by the Dark Force, and now if this Light Force is paying attention, they can teleport a bunch of people in. They do have 3 people there. Valkyries is going to teleport in. As long as they don't teleport in one by one, they can take this command post, and instead they're going to teleport one by one. So despite the blunder of this Dark Force here, they do hang on to this command post, and quite an interesting exchange right there. Who has 9,000 gold? Is it Huifui? No, Huifui bought lightning magic, which I think Frost Tank would have been better. Maybe I was clicking on the Dark Force or something, the Light Force. Enemy using some mines against Huifui. Enemy does have that plasma fragments. Hellcat comes in to ensure that he gets killed. And is anybody in position to respond? Everybody in the middle was pushing too far, and Hellcat's going to take another command post. So this Dark Force now has 5 out of the 6. Valkyries gets the Frost Robot, so he was probably the one I was looking at. Valkyries is now 1 less air tank. Actually, no, he wasn't the air tank. He was the anti-grav. So they still have 3 air tanks, but now they have Valkyries, who's a Frost Robot. He's going to be much more powerful in these group fights. And I think Huifui, instead of getting that lightning magic, he should have gotten the Frost Robot himself. GoblinKing, of course, does have his own lightning magic, so he has a lot of DPS now. And then no one still has that multi-bow. I still think Diabolicue could buy a multi-bow, but he does have a gravity grenade. Hits all 3 of these tanks in the gravity grenade, and he has the orbital strike, I should correct. And now Valkyries will probably die. Hellcat and enemy are there to finish him off. So Diabolicue is very powerful in these team fights, and he'll buy back his light cannon soon. And maybe he won't bother with the multi-bow at this point, though he still could get it. Hellcat's not going to be using it anymore. His inventory is a little bit too full. Hellcat, I wonder if he's going to get a tank. Another Frost Robot. He's selling some weapons right now. And he's going to get a Frost Robot. 42 minutes, not too late for a Frost Robot. And he's probably going to just try to finish this game. Give them enough of an advantage to push this final command post. If Diabolicue can get a good gravity grenade, followed by a good orbital strike by DarkLighter, who has a flamer, and if they can get a couple of nets, they definitely win in a 5-on-5 fight. Dark Force getting 1 kill here. Fenix barely survives. Valkyries isn't able to quite reach him with the freezing waves, which would have killed him. And GoblinKing takes a main gun, and Hellcat trying to deal some damage with the plasma waves. GoblinKing is able to get away. Diabolicue hits a couple of people with the orbital strike and the gravity grenade. Kind of poorly timed though, because his teammates had already used their abilities. If they can save their abilities and all go together and all assault this command post, they can definitely take it. They have the advantage in terms of tank power right now. It is 44 kills to 44 kills, but I think this Dark Force does have better inventory and a better combination of tanks. Valkyries has to be careful that he doesn't leave this command post too far, otherwise he might trade this bottom one for the middle one. I wonder if they're going to send a tech mech to maybe build something at it and try to assault this middle command post right now. Huifui taking some freezing waves that miss him, and can anybody stun him? Looks like they're going to try to hit nobody, or no one. No one gets hit with the Orb of Darkness. And it looks like Valkyries builds a teleport beacon. He's not going to commit to this though. Marquez does teleport in, but there are plenty of Dark Force tanks there. So they're going to get the kill on both Marquez and Valkyries, and Huifui does not have enough DPS to finish off either of these tanks, and in fact he's vulnerable himself, takes a net from DarkLighter, and DarkLighter gets the kill. Excellent response there by the Dark Force. Diabolicue has bought back that second light cannon. Should probably get some speed next. We have two Marquez on the bottom here. Fenix has built a laser tower. That laser tower is expensive, but it is permanent. Wonder if anybody still has nets. Enemy doesn't. Hui Fui, because we still have Hui Fui, GoblinKing, and Marquez, who are all air tanks. So Fenix or DarkLighter or Diabolicue could all get nets. Looks like DarkLighter actually got a kill on Marquez there. You can see he did use a net, so that's probably how he got the kill. And then Valkyries misses enemy with the freezing waves there. Enemy is going to be able to get out of the way. Hellcat teleports in. He's a little bit slow. He doesn't have speed. And Hui Fui is dealing a lot of damage to him. Hui Fui does have to be careful because DarkLighter does have those nets, which are going to recharge soon. So Diabolicue had used his gravity grenade. He doesn't have any mana. Nor does Fenix. I still think that a concerted push into this middle would win, especially if they're able to whittle down that tower. Fenix does have those spheres or orbs of darkness that can slowly siege it. DarkLighter's a little bit vulnerable. Do they have a stun in them? Valkyries is the only tank with a true stun. No one does have the acid cloud, and then Hui Fui's going to get netted once again. And then gravity grenade hits only DarkLighter. Diabolicue misses his gravity grenade, or I don't think he even used the gravity grenade. Now he does. Hits both Marquez and no one. He used his orbital strike without the gravity grenade. Hellcat's going to come and do a freezing waves on the command post. Hits nobody except for the tower. And then GoblinKing teleports in. Kinetic shield is the response, and then somebody used another net. So many nets going off. And so this was kind of a blunder for this light force to get so many air tanks. And then you can see enemies' plasma fragments were set to air. They were ignoring all the creeps. They were ignoring no one, and he is able to get the kill on Marquez. And then Valkyries dies once again. So this Dark Force really being advantageous in this fight. Hui Fui was lucky that he wasn't right over this cliff when he got netted. He would have been teleported all the way back here. Enemy is able to get the kill on him anyway, and enemy teleports out. And then Hellcat might get the kill on no one. Main gun goes off, kinetic shield goes off to try to save him, and then darkness orb perfectly placed, and no one and Valkyries die now. And GoblinKing is trying to take this command post. He is able to get the build. However, he is going to... Marquez teleports in. Enemy is there. Is anybody going to help enemy out? Enemy is now one-on-one with Marquez, and he is able to get the build. He is going to hold on to the command post, and meanwhile this middle was taken. And this game is probably going to be over soon. It looks like somebody left, whoever it was. I don't know who that was. Marquez, GoblinKing, looks like it was Fenix who left. Or no, not Fenix, the Valkyries. So I don't know if he disconnected or rage quit. The game was lost anyway. Excellently played there by the Dark Force. The Light Force did have a lot of feed early on with those kills, with that storm tank in the middle especially, but they made a very poor choice of getting 3 air tanks, and that made them very vulnerable to enemy storm tank, enemy's plasma fragments, and to everybody using nets and playing very well. So excellent win for the Dark Force there. That does go to show that superior tank combination in the mid game can win you a game even when you are behind. So that was very fun to commentate, my pleasure. Titan music out.